All right, it's 5:02, so
All
whenever
right.
you're ready, Dr. Sanders.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is plan C for me because none of the technological innovations in my office were working well with regard to the mic, so I'm standing in an empty classroom in Reed Hall. It's great to see you all. Thank you for being with us this evening. Welcome to the AddRan alumni panel. So we're going to get right to it. Oh, I'm sorry. Who am I? I am Dr. Claire Sanders. I teach history in the history department. Sorry, it's Friday. I don't know what day it is. Okay, and I'm also the co-director of the African American and Africana Studies minor here at TCU, and I also work with the provost. So that's who I am. Welcome, welcome to everyone. And now I'm going to try and stop talking a lot. And what I would like to do is to ask each of our panelists, please, to introduce yourselves. And then if you would please, in that introduction, include your current company and position, your major, and one fun fact about your activities or involvements while you are a student at TCU. Don't make me call on you.
Okay, I can go first. Hi, my name is Kobe Okafor. I am currently a finance and business management associate at JP Morgan. While I was at TCU, I was an economics major, and my fun fact for TCU is while I was there, I was a student athlete. I played football.
Thank you.
I can go next. I'm Caroline Salazzo. I am so glad to be here. Thank you for having me. I currently work at the American Heart Association. I'm an associate manager on the Go Red for Women team. So basically that means I do a bunch of like marketing and event planning and execution. I was a double major in Spanish and economics, so Kobe economics, yay. And then my fun fact was I was in the student foundation group who gives campus tours to prospective students. And because of that, during the time that they went to, the football team went to the 2011 Rose Bowl, they offered up empty seats on the plane with the band and the cheerleaders. And I got to go to the Rose Bowl with a free plane ticket, and they were undefeated that year. So that was amazing to be a part of.
I can go next. Hi, I'm Ashley Ratcliffe. I graduated 2010 with an English major and a Spanish minor, but I don't really use that at my job. I am, like I said, I'm with Thomson Reuters. I'm a content specialist, a senior content specialist, and I'm pretty much responsible for doing a lot of quality control testing, copy editing, typesetting, lots of publishing related things. And my fun fact, while at TCU, I was part of the Bryson Literary Society, which was formerly known as the Bryson or the TCU Underground. I was president for a couple years, and we were kind of responsible for like guerrilla tactics as far as distributing poetry and information about the 1147 magazine. That was like the highlight, being able to be around a lot of English folk. It was a lot of fun.
I believe I am the last one. My name is Ryan Spector. I'm currently a law enforcement response team analyst for Facebook. I was a criminal justice major and child development minor while at TCU. And my fun fact was I was the vice president for the men's volleyball club at TCU.
Cool. Thank you very much, panelists. So for our students who are present, if you would please, if you have questions, feel free to use the chat. Ms. Kara Davis will be monitoring the chat and will signal to us any of your pressing questions that we want to be sure to answer. So panelists, here's my first question for you this evening is how did you land your first job? Or if you're no longer in your first job, how did you make the transition to your current position?
Well, both of mine were from people that I knew. So for my first job, which I'm no longer in, my mom used to be a teacher, and one of her teacher friends told her about an opening at the company where her husband worked. So I applied and got that. And then, you know, to move to this next job, I was at the next step where going into sales was like the next progression. And that wasn't really what I wanted to do. So I started looking on the internet and found a job at AHA. And it turned out after I applied that I knew my neighbor knew the hiring manager. So it was all about, you know, using those people that you know to get those next jobs.
Yeah, I would say I completely agree with that. The way that I actually got my job was through the Career Center. And if any of you know Kim Satz, I believe she's in here as well. But I was actually working really closely with her towards the end of graduation. I will admit I was one that kind of slacked on looking for jobs. So then I kind of panicked and went to the Career Center for help and guidance as I was just kind of applying to everywhere and anything I saw. And the Career Center was very helpful with, you know, putting me in the right direction and kind of sending me jobs that aligned with what my interests were. So I would definitely say use the Career Center and use it early. And then once I applied to Facebook, I then connected with the TCU alumni who worked there. So definitely work with the alumni, reach out to alumni. They definitely will come in handy more often than you think.
I'll say I graduated in May 2010, and I didn't find my current position until October of the same year. And my resource was primarily, I would do some freelancing, editing in between while I was trying to find the right job. But I used ihirepublishing.com as opposed to Monster or LinkedIn, just because it's a more niche little social networking for publishing for anybody interested in the writing aspect or the editing aspect. And there were jobs there that are, at the time, again, this is 10 years ago, but at the time it seemed like if I were to search for those same jobs that I found in iHire Publishing on Google, I couldn't find them. So it's kind of like they were very much geared for people who were in this industry. So I was on there. I found a couple that weren't great fits. Didn't really get past the initial interview stage with those two, just because they had very different, very specific styles. But then I found Thomson Reuters and got my job within about a week. It involved a copy editing test, a proofreading copy editing test, and once I nailed that, it was smooth sailing. I've been there ever since.
My career path is kind of close to Ryan's. I kind of put off looking for a job till the very end. At least Ryan, you started while you were still in school. I waited till I graduated before I thought that'd probably be something I need to look for. But my first job was, I found that on Indeed. It was an internship with a gaming and casino company down in Austin. Now, since that, I've had the opportunity to take on other jobs since. But my most current job with JP Morgan, I was fortunate enough to find in grad school, where one of my professors turns out to be my current manager right now.
Cool.
So after graduation, he reached out to me to see if I was interested in taking on a new opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you. Ashley, we have a follow-up question for you. And that question is, what is freelance editing like?
It's a great question. So my first freelance editing experience was actually with the TCU Press. When I was a student, there was a work study program and an internship that you could apply for with the TCU Press. There's, I think, the graphic design aspect where you work on the cover art and design and layout of the actual books. And there is the the editing aspect as well. And there's the PR aspect. I think that's a new one that was added within the last 5 years. But after my time at TCU Press, and I was no longer a student, I wasn't with the work study anymore. I got a call and they said, could you, we had this 500-page anthology, and would you be able to proofread it in 3 days? And I got financial compensation for it, but I pretty much blocked off my schedule. I wrote down the hours that I was actually reading and editing, and I had to make manual marks. This is back in the old times where the cloud structure of publishing wasn't as prominent. So I would send in all of my copy editing marks that I'd have to flag them, and then I'd send them back to the press. But after that, freelance editing kind of involves communication with your author, establishing a certain rate so that you are fairly compensated, because it does take time for you to just sit and read, to apply a certain house style if they have something in mind. But it's sometimes word of mouth. It's, oh, I know this person edited this thing for me, so I'll give you their contact info. So it's word of mouth. And then I think there are now websites where you can go and say, hey, I'm a freelance editor. If you need me to copy edit your news releases or what have you, for something small, like a smaller business that doesn't have one in-house, you can go to those websites. And I've been out of the game for about 10 years, so I'm not really familiar with those particular sites, but that's kind of how freelance editing has worked for me.
Thank you. So our next question I'm going to approach in a sort of a two-pronged way. The overarching question is, do you have any job search strategies that you would share, or could you share one critical job search strategy might be the better way to think about that question. And while everybody else is thinking about that question, Kobe, there's a question for you, and the question is, how easy or difficult is it or was it for you to connect with people in grad school and really, network with your peers, your professors, others in your grad school experience?
For me, I think grad school was a little easier. For grad school, it was on a part-time basis. I was working full-time, then going to night school. So everybody in that environment was a professional in most cases. So were the professors as well. So it was a lot easier for me to meet people, understand exactly what they did, why they were interested in getting into grad school, and what their next step was after getting that degree. And from that opportunity and working with, meeting them, what organizations that they worked for, I was able to build connections with people. Even though I did not take some opportunities from my classmates, I definitely had the opportunity to interview with a lot of their companies. But for me, the opportunity with my manager, former professor, was a lot better.
Thank you. So a critical job search strategies, anybody would like to share?
I would just say kind of not like what everyone would think as far as like, searching on Google or whatnot, but definitely, and I kind of figured this out towards the end of my time at TCU, but become like, not friends with your professors, but definitely get to know them and meet with them, go to their office hours. I will say that as many times as I can, and get to know them, beyond just your professor. I would say probably every single professor you guys will be more than willing to get to know you and take the time if they see that you're putting in the time. Because one of my professors for criminal justice, the last semester before you graduate, you have to get an internship in the field, in the criminal justice field. And I had absolutely zero luck finding an internship, but luckily one of my professors who worked at the Child Advocacy Center in Fort Worth, Alliance for Children, she offered me an internship. I went to her, saying I've had no luck, and I couldn't be more thankful that she gave me that opportunity, because it literally almost identically aligned with kind of the role I have now at Facebook. So if I wouldn't have reached out to my professor or taken the time for her to get to know me instead of just a random student reaching out, that probably might not have happened. So I would say definitely, get to know your professors, regardless of if it's your major or not. It could always just benefit you in the long run.
I will definitely echo that. I know for English majors, one question that you might get a lot is, oh, so you're going to go teach? And it makes it feel like it's very limited on your scope. But the more that you talk to your professors, they have all sorts of experience over their professional careers and what they remember when they were our age. And it is so critical to be able to at least form one or two bonds, and beyond just your advisor. I think you can have a really great relationship with your advisor and with others in the field that you want to be in. I will say Dr. Kurt Rohde, was so instrumental in helping me find that path to publishing. He is responsible, he's at least he was, the mentor for 1147 and the Bryson Literary Society. He was the faculty associated with those two programs. And he just had these great ideas. He and Brad Lucas, both, Dr. Lucas, I'm sorry, they both had lots of different ways of looking at things that were able to get me out of my head of, okay, well, I love English, I love what I'm doing, how am I going to be able to apply that in the real world? And now I'm in publishing, and I had all my years at TCU, I was working on the 1147 magazine. And that was instrumental in allowing me to get that framework, to be able to apply that professionally later on. So I just wanted to spot on with knowing your professors.
Caroline, or
I would say, oh, sorry. Oh, I would say network. It's something that I didn't do very well when I was at TCU. I didn't do it at all, but it's been instrumental in my career from my very first job to where I currently am at this point in my career and at this point in time. So I would say network, meet as many people as you can. You never know who they know or where that connection might lead to.
I agree. And as somebody who is not, I don't think I'm very good at networking. And, I would just encourage you guys to put yourself out there. It's not something that everybody's naturally good at. And so the more you practice, the more you're going to be comfortable with it, if you're not from the get-go. And, just start a conversation and go to the TCU events and alumni events, and, utilize the Career Center events that they put on, and just walk up to somebody and say hello and see where it goes. You don't have to have this, fancy presentation ready to go. You just know yourself and see where the conversation goes. And chances are the person who you're talking to is just as uncomfortable networking too. So that's kind of what I would say. Put yourself out there and take advantage of any opportunities that you get to go meet new people. Even if you don't think that that's like an obvious connection or an obvious person that can help you, you never know. You never know. So that would be my kind of 2-in-1, like job search strategy and networking advice.
thank you. Thank you for all of that. So my next question is, what's a skill, or wait a minute. Yep. What's a skill in demand or that is particularly useful that you wish you had developed or had begun to develop while you were at TCU?
This is easy for me. Mine was public speaking. It's something I never did. And when you get into the real world, you have to, especially in corporations, you have to present. It doesn't matter who you're presenting to, or presenting to your peers, to management level team. You have to stand up there and be confident in your work, because somebody's going to have questions. And not being very good at public speaking, I was a nervous wreck for the first 2-3 years of my career. But it was a matter of repetition and doing it a lot, and being put in that position, even though I was uncomfortable with it. My managers and people that I worked with wanted me to get recognized for the work that I was doing. So over time, it got better. It's not perfect yet, but it's definitely still a work in progress. But it's so much better than it was like maybe 3-4 years ago.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Public speaking was always something that I kind of was afraid of whenever I had to like present in class or do whatever. So one thing that helped, especially, you know, as you're going to start doing interviews, is the Career Center does practice interviews. And I know for my major, they required us to do some, and you get graded on it. I believe Terrence Hood, I don't know if he still is doing the same role, but you can go to the Career Center and pretend as if you were going through a real interview, kind of going hand in hand with public speaking. You know, an interview is they kind of, and it's harder over VC, but obviously in person, you know, they want to just see that you're a person and that they can relate to you. So the more that you can be confident in the answers that you provide to them, or just relating to whoever may be interviewing you, is something that is so beneficial to have. And then kind of a skill that I learned, you know, as going through the job, was collaboration. You're going to have to work a lot with other people on most jobs that you have. And at TCU, there was probably stuff I could have done more of to, you know, collaborate with others. I didn't get that many group projects or stuff like that. But the more that you can work with others and then bring that into an interview and show that you're a team player and that you can work well with others, is something that will definitely look good when trying to market yourself or go in for an interview.
I agree with both of you guys, and I also am a self-proclaimed like nervous wreck when it comes to public speaking. But the more you do it, the more you get comfortable with, and it's a fact of life. And public speaking isn't necessarily like getting up in front of like hundreds and hundreds of people. You know, we're public speaking right now. If you're in a meeting with 5 people and you present the PowerPoint, you're public speaking. So it's not this like big, huge, daunting thing every single time, but every single time you do it, you get practice and you become that much more comfortable. And to prepare for a presentation or something, the more you know the content, the better and more comfortable you're going to be at presenting it to somebody else. So both of those things go hand in hand. So that would be one thing that I wish I would have developed at TCU, but also social media skills. I think that's like a really, you know, it's not going away, obviously. So I wish that I knew more about it and how to use it in, you know, the real world, and grow business and, you know, implement strategy and that kind of thing. So I would say social media skills for me, but social media was just kind of becoming a thing while I was at TCU. So didn't really get the chance to, but if you guys can take advantage of any kind of, I don't know, classes or trainings or whatever, I would recommend doing that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for that. And speaking of social media, then I think my next question is, now that we're all living and working in a virtual world, so to speak, do you have any tips or suggestions or cautions for our students about, working remotely, job searching in this virtual reality, interviewing remotely or digitally as opposed to being truly face-to-face?
Oh, I have one right off the top of my head. If you're going to interview over like Zoom or on a phone call or something, get dressed for it. Because I feel like that's going to help put you in the right mindset versus the mindset that I have when I'm wearing my yoga pants. Like it's going to help you feel professional and feel your best self, and you're going to present the best self to the interviewer. So yeah, that would be my tip. And if you're working like in a job, get dressed for the day, because I feel like that also helps you get in the right mindset for the day.
Yeah, I would agree with Caroline when it comes to interviewing. Just take the same approach that you would if you were going out there, going to the office and meeting the people. Just because you're at home behind the screen and they're probably the same place, doesn't you still need to have that, I don't want to call it a sense of urgency, but that professional, that you're still in a professional environment even though you're in the comfort of your home. And from working remote, for me, as I was telling the guys earlier, I probably will be going back into the office till 2022. But now that I know that, and from my experiences since I've been at home since March, is getting a little bit of a balance. As what I've realized is that since I'm working remote, that you don't have to commute, you don't really get a lunch break, so to speak. You're working more than 8 hours a day, so you need to find some sort of a balance as to when just to shut it off for like a few minutes to give your brain some time to refresh and get back to work again. So that would be something that I definitely recommend.
Ryan, you got anything for us?
I will say, as far as the interview thing, working for Facebook was definitely interesting. I remember going in for my interview and was so nervous on what to wear. They're obviously a very relaxed and open company, and they said that in the email. We want you to be yourself in the interview, so there's no dress code. And that was probably the worst thing they could have said to me, because I was panicking on what to wear. Like, do I wear a full suit? Do I go more casual to be more myself? So I ended up just kind of wearing a button up and slacks and went with it. And there was people walking around barefoot in the office. It was just nothing that I have ever been a part of. So as far as the interview, I think the biggest thing that I would take away is, be professional, obviously, like they said, depending on what job you're going for, but definitely be yourself, be your authentic self. Don't try and fake something. Don't try and be someone you're not, because at the end of the day, they're hiring you. And it's most important to just be yourself and, show them who you actually are, not going in there and kind of being like a robot trying to answer the best questions or give the best answers. But definitely just, be yourself, be relaxed. And I think that'll go a long way when interviewing. And then working remotely, kind of like Kobe said, as of now, we're working from home until July. And that'll probably get extended until December of 2021. I'd say the biggest thing, and especially in school too, if you're not going to in-person class, but give yourself that time, take a lunch break, go outside, get some fresh air, change the scenery of where you're working. If you're sitting at a desk all day, go to the library or go, sit on a bench or something, because, sitting in one spot every day can be draining. So I would say the biggest thing is, have a change of scenery and give yourself the breaks that you definitely deserve.
I am so sorry that I I don't know what happened. But I understand that it's the questions about working remotely as well as interviewing.
Yes.
Okay.
In the digital age, yeah.
So one of the big things that I learned in my interview experience was don't pretend to know all the answers. Has that already been said?
No.
Okay. Do not go in there and pretend that you're an expert in InDesign if you don't know how to do InDesign. And I say this because it shows a level of adaptability. My experience, when I went into the interview, they asked me, do you know about editing in XML? And I could have said, well, yes, I've done Dreamweaver because I did one class. Like in a whole semester, I did one class on Dreamweaver when we were creating our websites. So I could have kind of fluffed it a little bit. And I said, you know, I have a little bit of experience, but not much. But I'm a very, very quick learner. And my interviewer said, that's the best response we've gotten because you could have tried to give me the definition, which is what he heard a lot, the definition of what XML is and how to tag and all of this. And he said, the fact that you're being upfront about what you do know and what you don't know, it goes a long way, and we can work with that. And I learned then that I didn't want to, I mean, you don't want to go in there and be like, I don't know what I'm doing, but but you also want to show them I'm very adaptable. You can give anything to me and I'll be able to work with it and I'll learn quick. And that's what they want to hear, because as we've seen over the past 6-7 months, it's all about adaptability. I've been working from home for 7 years. I have 2 kids and it has been a roller coaster. It's managing your own expectations and your company's expectations. It's saying, okay, I know what I need for my mental health. I need to find the time to do a workout, to be able to, no, thank you. No, thank you. Nope. Go. Thank you. To adapt to when you walk into the room and start crying. Sorry, let me close the door real quick. He's fine. In most circumstances, though, it is it's realizing what it is that you need and making sure that you still get that, even in a world where you probably have to be logged on most of the time. I have to log hours for my job, so I have to make sure that I'm able to accurately log the hours, because if we get audited and I'm saying that I'm using 8 hours on one product, they're going to question that, you know? So you need to make sure that you're accountable for yourself professionally, and then that you're also accountable for yourself mentally and physically, and find the time to work out, to get outside, like what was said before, and spend time with your family. I will be spending time with my family, giving all sorts of cuddles that I need to. But yeah, those are my tips.
Okay, thank you so much. Let me think here. One other question I would like to ask is, especially in this moment in our national history and culture, there's a lot of focus on diversity and inclusion. And a lot of, as you might be aware, TCU is working hard to become a more inclusive campus and environment. So I would appreciate if you would speak to the role of the importance of, or anything else you want to say about diversity and inclusion in your work life or in your work context.
Well, I would just say, so I work at the American Heart Association, and our big organization goal is to end heart disease and stroke. And that's a lot of people that you're speaking to across the country and across the world. And you can't have a one-size-fits-all message to every single person. There's so many different people in the world that you have to look at what you're working on. I specifically focus, the program that I work on focuses on talking to women and educating them that their number one risk of death is cardiovascular disease. And women are different than men. And then within women, there's so many different kinds of women. and they're dealing with so many different things. And you have to, come at it with this lens of, okay, what is this group of women thinking about and talking about and dealing with in their life versus what is this group versus what is this group? So you have to have that lens across everything you do. It's not just like a one and done kind of thing. You have to always be thinking about it and always adapting and make sure that it's not going to fall on deaf ears. Like, you have to know your audience so you know what they're gonna to respond to.
I agree with that. And for me, when it comes to working for a large corporation like JP Morgan, the word that I use to this when interacting with people in the US or in EMEA or APAC is always having empathy. You don't know everybody's story. You don't know their backgrounds or what they've been through, how they got to where they are. And you don't have to, but at the very least that you can do is understand it and respect it. And that kind of mindset, regardless of who the person is or whether you agree with them or not, it's essential to fostering a collaborative environment in any workspace. So that's definitely one of the things that we try to teach. Now, JP Morgan teaches us as employees is always have empathy, because for an organization where for me, right after this call, I have to get back to work and talk to my guys in Hong Kong. With different time zones and different cultures, you always have to have empathy. You don't understand what they're going through, how their day has been, what they have going on in their personal lives. It's not, like I mentioned, it's not for you to understand, but it's for you to just respect it and support them in any capacity that you can.
Oh, that's very poignant, Kobe. I agree. We have teammates that work in Hyderabad. I hear it pronounced both ways. I say India. But they have different holidays that they have to take off for. And just doing like a quick Google search and trying to find out a little bit about it so that, you can respond appropriately without sounding like you know everything about their culture or their holiday, or but being mindful. I think we're seeing a bigger shift on global thinking, on global communications. Probably everybody on this call at some point is going to work with somebody in a different country, and knowing how to conduct yourself. And it's not like you have to be mindful of any sort of insensitivity on your part, just being respectful of whatever it is that you don't understand, and learning about it. And I think that's so critical these days, is people feel a lot of the times they know what they know, but you can always learn more. And our company is a great example, I think, of that. For Thomson Reuters, this is the first year that we took Juneteenth as a holiday. And this is the first time that a CEO has made an actual statement to denounce racism, and started leading workshops to learn more and to allow the employees to learn about it. And we're encouraged, and hey, take some time and go to these seminars, virtually, of course, and learn a little bit more. And it's a breath of fresh air for me to be able to work someplace that encourages that. You won't always find companies that do that, but to allow yourself the opportunity to seek those moments out, so that you can also learn more about yourself, learn more about others, and then just be able to work, like I said, more globally, mentally as well as professionally.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what everyone has said. And it's been really cool to work at a company like Facebook. They have these groups called Facebook resource groups, and they're open to all full-time employees. And they're totally inclusive groups that represent underrepresented communities or groups. And so they're They always put on events. There's a group for women at, or Asian Pacific Islanders at, and it's all these groups that could be underrepresented. And you don't have to directly identify with one of those groups. You can join it as an ally, and they put on events, they put on speakers, they put on all these things that just allow you to learn more about groups or communities that you might not know about. And I think it's amazing that a company like this allows such open and inclusive things. And kind of just like Ashley said, for Juneteenth, we didn't get the day off, but Facebook had lined up workshops for the whole day of external speakers, anything that you could imagine. And they really recommended that you go and sit and listen to these speakers. And it was cool to see that, and to have external speakers, not just people from within the company, come and talk to us virtually, obviously, given what we're going through. And I believe, I think certain companies on election day are allowing people to work the polls and get paid time off for that, take paid time off. And I believe Facebook is doing that. So if you wanted to, you could take the day off from work and go work from the polls, and you would still get paid for it as you're taking one of your vacation days. But the fact that they're allowing people to do that, to make change, to listen to others is incredible. And I am honored, and amazed to work at a company that allows things like this to happen.
Thank you. Thank you so much for those responses and for that input. So at this point, I'm going to invite students to unmute. If you have a question, anything that you would like to pose to our panelists as a whole, or to a specific alumnus or alumna.
I have a question for Caroline. You said you minored in Spanish, right?
I was a double major in Spanish and economics. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, double major. Okay.
Yeah.
So how did that, like, knowing Spanish or having like the degree factor into getting hired, and do you like use that today in your job?
That is a great question. My very first job out of school was in an advertising sales office. And the primary audiences that they were talking to were not Spanish speaking, so it really didn't play into getting hired there. I wish that I had kept it up and kind of kept fresh on it, because I'm a little rusty now, and it really would come into play when I'm, developing Spanish language messaging that we use for different programs, because I can read something and say, I think that sounds right, but I'd really like a native speaker to just check it for me. But it definitely would come in handy now. So I think it would be, if you're considering it, I think it would be a pretty good skill to have.
Yes, Joaquin, go ahead.
I just want to say thank you all so much for coming out. And something that I've been trying to learn about is like your goal career path versus where you actually end up. So when y'all were coming out of college, was this like the #1 place you wanted to be at when you first landed at your first gig? Or was someone like, hey, it's okay I didn't land here because I feel like I could pivot? Did you guys feel confident you could like pivot to other careers or other jobs? Or what was it like kind of coming out of college and landing in the first real job position?
I can take it first if you guys want. So the first job I had was not, like, I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I still don't. But the first job out of school was just to get a job for me. I needed, to make money and start supporting myself. And so I was looking for anything and everything that I had the skills for or was vaguely interested in. But once I got there and started learning some things, like, I was like, this isn't really what I want to do. Because like I said, sales, like doing the selling was going to be the next step. And that wasn't something that I was interested in or really have a skill set for, I don't think. And so I started looking elsewhere, and nonprofit was always of interest to me. I would volunteer throughout high school and college, and this job kind of popped up, and I said, I really think I could do that, and I'd really like to do that. And so I applied, and here I am, and I've been here for almost 8 years. So I think that, like Ashley was saying, being adaptable is, a really good thing to have in your back pocket to change your career. And it is possible to change your career if you get there and you're like, this really isn't for me.
I absolutely agree. This I started my career at TCU as a journalism communications major. And so working for Reuters News would be a really, really cool thing. But then I didn't really love all the communication aspects. So then I just switched to English, which is still so versatile. Working at the press, though, I knew that I wanted to be in publishing. My dream job would have been TCU Press, to be completely honest, working with Melinda Esco and Susan Petty. They were amazing mentors. And I would have loved to just peruse books all day long and get paid for it and be able to make them better. And while that's not where I currently am, I do make things better. And I kind of have some sort of interface with the customer too, to be able to make something more functional for them, to make things more readable. Talking back about adaptability, we had to stop the presses pretty literally and talk about COVID-19 in all of our audit guides. Because I work for a tax and accounting branch of Thomson Reuters, we had to update for the CARES Act, and we had to update for how is this going to impact your customers, your clients, your businesses. And so that was interesting for me to be able to learn. So while I'm not reading the next bestsellers before they're bestsellers, it is, I'm enjoying where I am. And I am recognizing as well that it's not too late. I've been here 10 years. And it's never too late to be able to go after something that I really would love to do. I'm only 31. So I'll be able to, leverage all of this experience that I have. And, if I do decide to go somewhere else, maybe also working remotely there too, I'll have all of these skills that I learned from TCU, that I was able to acquire from meeting one-on-one with professors, and from this job. So
So I have a friend on the call, so I'll be honest. I had no idea what I wanted to do after graduating college. For me, it's been more about interests more than having a goal, so to speak, for maybe a company or an industry. Had interest in real estate, and I pursued that. Had interest in working in pharmaceuticals, and I pursued that as well. But for me, the thing that was always constant between all my jobs has been finance. So it made sense to me at some point that maybe to look into financial services and working for a bank or any kind of institution of the sort. And funny enough, when that thought popped into my head, when I was in grad school and I met my manager, and he had an opportunity for me. So for me, my path to where I am today, I graduated in 2014 and I didn't get to JP Morgan until 2019. So it took 5 years. So my advice would be adaptable. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. And usually things come full circle. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. And I know that sounds kind of, yeah, but yeah.
Completely agree once again with what everyone has said. I, just like many others, had no clue what I wanted to do. I literally majored in criminal justice thinking I was going to become in law enforcement, something within law enforcement, whether that be federal or what have you. And realized as I was attending that that kind of was not the route that I wanted to go, and kind of had a panic moment as a criminal justice major, thinking I literally spent 4 years going towards this, and now I have no idea what I'm going to do with this major. Not knowing that there's so many other fields within criminal justice or whatever major you have, there's so many things that you probably have no idea even exist. My job being one of them, I didn't even know Facebook had a team that dealt with taking legal requests from law enforcement and processing them and going through them. So when I was presented the opportunity to apply, I just was like, yeah, I have no clue what this job is, but I'm going to apply and hope for the best. I ended up getting it, and I'm lucky enough to work for an amazing company like this, but what I was doing wasn't necessarily what I envisioned it was or what I wanted to do. I love to talk to people and be a people person, but I kind of was just behind a computer screen. So I've been at Facebook for about 3 years now, and I finally, one thing my manager did, which was awesome, was she obviously was there to make sure I got my work done, but more importantly was there to know where I wanted to go in my career. Obviously I had my job where I was, but she was really more interested in what I wanted to do in the future. And so now, just this year, I started testifying in court on behalf of Facebook. So just in February, I was in federal court in Los Angeles, being able to talk about the records we produced. And, you know, I'm talking to the judge, the prosecutor, the jury, and I'm now like in front of people, which is just amazing. And if you would have told me that 3 years ago that I would be doing that, I would have said, you're crazy. And here I am. So kind of like Kobe said, and like the others, you know, it'll take time, but eventually you'll get to something, and everything comes first full circle. And if it's meant to be, it's meant to be, like he said. And now, you know, I couldn't be happier with what I'm doing. I'm still doing, you know, all the stuff I did when I started, but having this extra role and being able to do what I enjoy is amazing. It just takes time to get there.
Any other questions? All righty then. This has been good. Thank you all for attending. There are